Yeah.
Don't worry, buddy. Good. Thank you. Did you take them all, Mr. Joe?
My mother was talking.
Yeah, she give them to us and we pass them around to each other. Karen, just to let you know, the machine is there to knock the house down. It's set,
You know better than we do.
it's set behind it. Yeah, Joe.
He passes it all the time.
Joe said it had been
He calls
there.
me for updates.
Yes, I
You should call
do.
him for updates.
They had it set. They got it set behind the house.
That my dad died, I played cards with her for a little while.
I think that'd be okay.
Sure.
You want to take one? Thank you.
Want me to go? I got some. Thank you.
I think she's trying to tell us something.
I know.
The mask ain't doing it.
I can take the hint.
I get so dry mouth.
Oh, I just told him it.
Except the next table.
Yeah, each of it.
Someday I'm going to come in here and clean out everything that's under here.
Yeah. I give them to Cindy all of the stuff that I had.
I mean, like Cindy's glasses are in here.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen anybody.
Cindy's stress ball.
What kind of cards?
I come in about every 3 months and clean my drawer out. But I've got it full again.
Here's the budget from 2019, public hearing. Some useful stuff in here. Capital improvements plan.
Yeah.
Brenda, there's only one opportunity for public comment. There's not one at the end.
Solitaire anymore.
That is the end of the meeting. It's after the discussion for the budget.
Oh, I see that. The work
Yeah.
session document, the work session
If
agenda.
your family member, did she taught you how to play?
Hi, sister.
Why? It's really quite a transition.
Amazing.
You want to know about the trail?
When it's necessary for
No, you're welcome. She was asking about public comment,
mine is just an amazing tool.
but we had
No,
debate this
You don't
morning.
remember it week after week.
Kathy
it's,
used to do this
it's
special
hard
meeting.
for family members.
And then we called this one as
You
a
know,
work
we
session.
passed a lot of time in life, sitting down playing. And so, this big one is
I think the same place.
Yeah, but
And at the high school gets their stuff, so when they ordered a bunch of fire department stuff.
it's the chess thing. It's always an
Yeah.
influence for me.
Chandler's Loft.
Not only that,
There's the 19 budget right there too.
you do.
Did they print it out for us big that year? Because that's what Cindy has in here too. Huge.
Impressive.
Yeah, but I think
So it's from the,
our 20 budget is in another smaller.
cars, and I said, your cars are
for to get their, now maybe it's the same.
Super helpful being that big.
Would you like the 17 budget?
Brian, what'd you do to your shoulder?
I had shoulder surgery.
5 years ago, you can't drive these cars in.
Ryan, what'd you do with my dog?
What?
What'd you do with my dog letter?
Did you talk to Larry?
Doing this down here, we're putting
You should.
the head to coffin, we're putting that.
You should know what you're headed into.
90 years old.
See, that's,
I have two, like, gigantic stones in mine. And that's what they said was causing the pain.
Moving now, so.
Jump around.
Yep. We got lots to talk about.
He's, it sounds like such an old baby, but my dog.
Larry had his house, I mean, years ago. So, and, I mean, he probably was in his 30s when it happened. It's actually pretty
that's pretty cool.
run-of-the-mill.
There's 18.
What is the next regular meeting for the,
Monday.
this coming? Okay, is there, do you guys get the agenda in the packet tomorrow?
No, it'll come out today after this meeting.
Ah.
It's
Are you
done.
coming to that meeting?
It's done right
I
now.
certainly hope so. I have something for you. I wanted to try to get.
I think we're canceling it, so.
I thought you were gonna say that.
Okay, I'm gonna throw them away.
It is actually, yes.
You don't want your other drawer to have.
Man, forget a file cabinet. We got the whole township right here.
He's doing something in his office with BSNA.
I heard him on the phone, but I wasn't sure
Yeah,
how long it would take.
Oh, Jason.
Jason?
I don't know. I haven't heard from him today.
Jason's here, I seen him out there walking through it when I come in.
He must have lost his watch.
Won't last very long.
Not at his age.
Don't say that. I walked into a room and go,
What was I doing here?
so, I know both of these things.
I know this is what I used to do. When we had the one man chair. Because if the last one here, you got that chair every time. That chair
Oh,
just
yeah.
put it down and
I didn't say sure move.
public, I'm gonna talk, not all the chairs in the state, so.
Sure
Shuffle them
move.
around.
Why not?
All that paper and look how much I still got.
We're gonna just spring it on everybody.
Ah. There's sections in this.
Thank you.
Oh, man.
I've been working hard, guys. I got nothing else to do. I just disappointed myself. That goes with that.
Thank you.
This is,
I like the color paper better.
excuse me?
Color paper's better.
My mask is swept off.
Oh,
It just went,
oh, and you need bigger ears?
yeah, thank you.
I've always said bigger. But
I'm
yeah,
sure Jason's going to take it.
So this would solve a lot of problems and make your job a little bit easier. I think. It's modeled after the county.
okay.
They've done it. You don't mind if I talk more for
Well, this is started.
meeting hasn't started.
He should be
But anyway,
here. He's on the ground.
we just, this is getting more and more and more and more complicated. And Ben's I mean, heaven forbid would have something happen to the fire chief, and he has to be fire chief. Then what would happen to Parks and DPW? So anyway, the sign of a good leader is to be able to delegate, not to micromanage. So I think it's really important for us, to grow our parks and
You
greens.
ever seen that one?
You got 53 parcels out there that something needs to be done, and somebody needs to marshal that. And I think the group that I proposed would do that as well. Whether it be to sell it, whether it be to make it into green space, This body that I propose would have that authority. So, you got Wishwasser Park now is getting bigger. You got, hopefully in 5 years, we have Cousins Memorial. That would be recognized by the federal.
He's on the ground.
You got, hopefully Park
I
and
didn't see
Trail.
him.
He said he'll be here in 2 minutes.
All of it's huge. And they're getting
Oh, you
more
texted
small.
him, I'm like, I can go call him.
But I just figured, you can only do so much. Even with really.
We just got his booster shot.
And so this
I
would be
should've
the
done that.
opportunity to
Oh,
delegate.
I thought it
Yeah.
was just COVID.
And they
It's
will
out
still
there.
be under the
Yeah.
I thought it was until 6.
the board trust.
Can we end this meeting?
And
Actually, I think I haven't hit my 6 months yet.
So anyway, there's something for you to read.
Weird. Now he just said,
And please consider it seriously. I think it's really the way to go for the township.
he's on his way. Jason's on
Oh,
his
Jason
way.
is? How about Steve? He's still on the phone. isn't he?
The only picture I got of that man.
That's
He started this
crazy.
kind of thing without.
People who knew him said it was not him.
And in a nutshell, the township supervisor can create this group that I proposed.
I have a very short leash, where is he? My type A personality kicking in.
I heard he was over there trying to get rid of a ticket.
Better not do that, not today.
Yeah.
Could have done that 40 years ago, but you can't do that today.
Yeah, right. I know that.
It's a beautiful school.
Yeah, yeah. My dad come over
Well,
the day, that's before they put the pole up so the rest of it wouldn't fall down on
All right,
people
so
working
call
on
it to
it.
order.
Did we do shots out here today?
Uh-huh,
Okay.
till 6.
Meeting will now come to order. Thank you,
so sorry.
Jason. No, that's. All right, so we're gonna approve the agenda. We have a chance to look at it.
Motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
All right, this is the first one I see. It's a work session, introduction.
We gotta have a vote.
Oh, you want, go ahead.
Mr. Wisswasser,
On the phone,
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Mr. Rosecrans?
yes.
Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Mr. Emelige?
Yes.
Mr. Bensing?
Yes.
I'm sorry, who made the motion? on
I
this?
did.
Ryan?
Ryan
Yeah.
I'll second.
and, thank you.
All right, now we'll go to the work session of introduction discussion of the budget.
I'm gonna give it to Karen, let her keep it up here and then everybody
And
can.
really, whatever the consensus is of this group,
I was gonna say-
I was sorry to interrupt you.
No,
I
go
just
right
thought I
ahead.
would just jump right in and see if you wanted to go page by page.
That's what you initially,
What seems to be the most popular, or sometimes other boards have gone to areas of concern first and foremost. So however this group would like to do it,
I think we need to go page by page.
page by page.
Start at the front and work our way through.
Okay, and then Monday we have one as well,
Yeah.
before the meeting, so there's another hour there, and then we can talk
Is
more.
this an hour?
the two,
This can be 1 or 2,
Oh,
however,
I'm just
yeah. we-
checking on you.
okay. And then, Monday, you can decide, I have an agenda item on there for discussion for you to discuss if you would like more work sessions, or what your next step is. So that will be up to you as well on Monday.
I'm gonna see if I can get a copy of that budget. I have
Oh,
no-
okay.
I have a copy, but-
Okay.
And what we decided was 5 PM.
Yes,
Yeah.
on Monday. Yes, Monday at 5 p.m.
Yeah. So apparently we're going to discuss the budget, because I've never done this before, so hang in there. We're gonna discuss the budget before our public comments.
Yes.
Okay.
So there's two, here, I'll just explain, Mary. There's two different ways that we called special meetings in the past, or we've called work sessions. Work sessions are usually more informal. There's more free, kind of, you still moderate discussion as you always do, but it's a little bit more informal. And really we discuss, we don't take any actions, so, and that's why we do it that way. In a special meeting, there would be actions you could take, just like a regular meeting. So this is really just about the discussion.
Sure.
Hello, Mr. Wishwasher.
Jason and I have two new ones, so.
Yeah, I'm
Are
good.
they making it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm late. We got wrong business.
Just bring your telephone with you.
No, we can do that.
So Marie, Supervisor Howe called us to order. We talked just briefly about work session protocol was more of a discussion. I think the consensus is we would like to go page by page. And we can start doing that now, or we can wait for, or we can wait for.
No, I
that one.
can look over
Okay.
Joe's shoulder.
Okay, so the pages are numbered at the bottom. Pages 1 and 2 contain all of the estimated revenues that we anticipate receiving in fiscal year 2022. I do my best based on information from the state when it comes to local community stabilization fund and Metro Act revenue, state constitutional revenue sharing, to put those numbers in here. This format also shows you previous years of activity, so that provides you some level of what has the trend been in the funding we've received from the different areas. And if you have any questions on how a number was arrived at, or what something might be, please let me know. We'll just take it that way, if you'd like to go that way.
Okay. Because I'm fairly new at this, Jason's, he and I are the two, you guys have already done this before. What's your process?
So I start with reports that are run by Beth, looking at estimated property taxes. And she calculates, and she gives me a lot of reports, but she also gives me basically a synopsis of those reports and lets me know what we can expect to see in current property taxes, as well as police and fire taxes, and as well as the library millage that we collect. So those numbers
That's
start
where
us,
it's come up. Okay.
start us off, yep. And then I basically, there's a formula that I work with Treasurer Wiswasser on for trailer taxes. Interest on taxes generally goes by the interest rate that Treasurer Wiswasser feels we can achieve. And sometimes that's just based on history, and it's based on current market conditions or economic conditions.
When you say interest rate, that means not what our millage is for Vernon Township. No, what do you mean?
It's hard to talk with math.
Yes, it is.
Interest income, I'm sorry, would be like your income you get on your bank statements,
Okay,
or whatever money you have that you're getting interest
so
on.
that's not set by you, that's set by.
No, I wish it was.
I wish.
I wish. All right, so your interest income
Yeah.
is what
It's
they
income,
determine,
yeah.
and that's passed on, okay.
And so then I go out and I look at state reports from the Michigan State Department of Treasury, and I look at the expected revenue we're to receive based on revenue sharing. I look at revenue estimating conferences that are held by the governor and the different departments of state to look and see what the conditions, economic conditions might be, if it might impact revenue sharing, either less or more. And then for some of these, I have to go back and look at just historical data and try to make my best estimate of what can and will occur if something like COVID doesn't come along and shut it down. So we do have those anomaly years where you have no ability to forecast, but based on current conditions and future looking conditions, what are those gonna be, and what do you anticipate you can bring in?
Right. Reason I'm asking that, when I was looking at the property tax budget for 2022, it was like $1,720,202. The amended 2021 was 51,723 more. So in 2021, we would have had 51,000 simply from property tax. Does that sound?
So the amended 2021, at this time, we have like 1.668
Yes,
million.
yes.
So what you're saying is that it's only approximately 50,000 more than that.
Right.
So
For 20
as we, and Treasurer Wiswasser can certainly jump in,
Okay,
as we begin that tax collection, we get a better idea of what's coming in on time, and what we're collecting. Usually this is a conservative estimate.
okay.
Please.
I have to answer your question, but I don't just been somebody said once I had. I'm sorry, I got the answer. I got the answer to your question.
Actually, that's what we need to
You're
do.
doing a curl style accounting. What that means is you're collecting money here as it occurs, and what, for instance, and I'm a little bit ahead of you a little bit here, maybe you're right, I probably should have proven with these for everybody. But this is a quarterly budget amendment encumbered report. That's what they refer to it as, and what that means is encumbered as it's encumbered as it's happened as of today. And for instance, as of today, for property taxes, for 2021, you've collected $1,554,346 out of that $1,668,479 from this year's budget. But you gotta remember, we're doing this as it occurs, so all the property taxes you're gonna collect in the month of December is roughly, that's an estimate, is what you go by every year. So that's roughly, you're gonna collect, the township's gonna get another $50,000 in revenue in December. That's actually next year's taxes, but in the audit, since we're doing things in a curl style accounting, we have to claim that this year in this year's revenues. And that's why that number, that's that when it was off at 51,000, because you have to be honest with the town government.
Yes, you do.
How much money you're collecting, because all these people that are sitting in our audience, a lot of them like to claim their taxes on their income taxes, and that's why you have to do that.
So what we're
Does that make
saying,
sense?
well, kind of. So what we're saying is the 51,000 extra
Yep.
that we have is from 2021.
All taxes are collected in the rear, we're collecting 2021 taxes. Now, the final day to collect them will be March 1st here at the township, but they're actually 21 taxes we'll be collecting in 22. And this little piece of 22, we're gonna get $54,000 of 22's money in 21.
Okay.
Does that make it easier to understand that?
No, it's understandable before. I just wanted to, I was just reiterating where our 51,000 was coming from.
Yeah,
Because that's a plus.
that's where it comes from.
Okay, that's a plus. Okay, no, we're not into any specifics other than, you can see I wrote laundry list for page one.
That's good.
Well, no, it's not, because everybody else gets a little bored who's done this before.
Or they learn.
Well, the police and fire, for
Mhm.
example, listed in 2019 and 2020, but they're not listed for 21 or 22 on page one.
Okay, so in advance of changes to the chart of accounts that were going to be required by the state, Steve and I made a decision to create ahead of time in last year's budget to create a public safety fund. So that changed the way in which we used to account for the police and fire taxes. So now they have a
So they're
fund
combined.
instead of being a department.
They're public safety.
Right,
That's,
so you
it's
have
not
3
us.
meals for public safety.
Yeah.
It's not us making that decision as in Karen and I, this is the actual statutory change that you're gonna have to do by 23, or everybody's gonna have to have it by 23, we're a little bit proactive now.
That was my point, is Steve and I made it to do it early.
To do it early, so you have a public safety fund, you no longer can pay your police and fire services out of the general fund, you have to have their own fund, which is a public safety fund, that's the 205 fund. And
So we're
then,
doing that in 2022.
we did it already
We
last
did it
year.
already.
Okay.
Because they moved their
So-
date on us 3 times because of that. They
Okay.
told us we was
Well,
gonna have to have that this year in December, now it's December, now it's next year. At the end of December of this next year of 22, you gotta have it done by, we're kinda at the
So that's why there's 52,000 plus extra.
I wouldn't say that's anything extra, there'd be more money there because of the same reason, it's gonna follow the same thing as what property tax collections
Right,
is.
the more
Police and
property
fire.
owners you have.
You're gonna
more
pay,
taxes.
you're gonna have money that's gonna come in December of 21, it's gonna actually be 22 money. Same thing what you just talked
But
about.
those are increases.
That's
So
right,
now we have over 100,000 in increases.
that's correct.
Okay. And then.
In perspective funds,
In what?
in the perspective funds.
Right.
In
For
the
police
general
and
fund
fire.
and in
For
the police and
public
fire,
safety.
that's correct.
Okay. So instead of people who will vote for police and fire, they'll vote for public safety, which is still 3 mills. That will change, it's just the name change. Is that right?
I have no idea, that'll be the clerk's department. She's gonna change the name of that, but that technically is the public safety fund. That doesn't necessarily mean what you're voting for. It's a police and fire millage. I think truth and taxation tells you that you have to take and state what it says and what it's actually for. And it's for police and fire or public safety, depending on, new people sometimes, the new way of doing things this day and age, some people like to refer to public safety versus police and fire.
Okay.
Because it sounds familiar. I think that's the reason why they do that.
So they used to have 2 pages in the general fund.
Yeah, because on page 27.
Yeah, and we're actually gonna remove those
Oh, okay.
going forward, but those 20 and 21 will be removed because they are a fund, so all that data will follow to the public safety fund.
Right.
So now, we'll look at page 27, is the start of the public safety fund.
Okay.
And that's the amount collected for the millage, and then the other,
So let me understand, so where it says 0000,
yes,
that goes away.
yeah, that line will, yes,
It
no
will
longer
reference
appear.
page 27.
Yeah,
Okay,
By law.
well, I don't care.
yeah, yes, it'll go away in our
Yeah.
accounting software.
That's-
It'll
okay.
be a change.
So we look to page 27 then, when it talks about our millages,
Mhm.
our police and fire. Okay, got it.
Yep,
Okay. Yeah, because it wasn't there, and it's a little confusing.
yes.
Yeah.
We're
Was
gonna
there-
try to clean up the confusion.
It's gonna get worse, because you got a lot more, you got,
Yeah, there are more that
you have
have
several
to
more pages of
Yes.
account, uniform chart of accounts that's gonna take change between now and the end of this next year. And some of these line items, as you know them today, some of them, they're condensing it down. And in the perfect world, what they tell you, the auditors will tell you, the fewer journal entries you have and fewer line items you have, the better off, you're more efficient your government is, and that's what they're doing. They're condensing down a lot of things and putting them in, so they're no longer have quite as many buckets
I'm
to
gonna
pick
make
the
a
money
political
from.
statement there.
Hmm?
That was told for us way back when, for an appropriation bill, that we're gonna roll them in and it'll make it more efficient. And what happened to it? They hid them. But that's not, I'm just telling
This
you.
has been going
I know.
on for quite a while, and they
I know.
haven't been able to agree on it, and it hasn't been quite as fast as what they'd like, but they do have an agreeable thing. BSNA is changing over most of the software folks are changing over most of the accounts in the state right now, the way that is done. We're fortunate to live right across the street from them people,
I should have
and
stayed.
talk to them regularly, so we did a lot of our own things.
Well, I'm just saying save this because you aren't gonna see it. It's gonna be all rolled in a different piece, but that's a good thing there. Okay,
Lamb's and
no. Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
have a, I mean, are we to the point of asking questions
On
on
page
specific
one.
line?
Yeah.
So I wanted to clarify my understanding. So 476 franchise fees, those are from our public right of way,
Yes,
the fees that the cable and other providers provide.
correct.
577 is tax collected on behalf of, so that would be the Metro Act revenue, based on similar infrastructure.
Mhm.
And then 667, rent, that's the cell tower rental, so that's 50,000 plus another 1,000.
Correct.
So we have about $100,000 that comes in annually related to communications and cable infrastructure.
Correct. But what you should know too is the rent that comes in also goes back out per a court order. We pay, I wasn't here when it occurred, but, we pay, 2 residents for, and you know,
We should pay one.
One resident?
One
Okay.
family.
One family.
One property, we pay, and that was by court order, back in, and forgive me, I may be off a little bit here, but I believe it was 1996, 97. They sued us for, it was 96, because I was on board, for a cell tower lawsuit. We denied a cell tower permit, and by federal court order, the cell tower went in on the township property. And what happened was, is the people who had the cell tower leased, who we denied it to, the federal judge awarded the dollar amount to them that they would have received if they would have got the tower.
Okay, is that a one-time
It's a
payment?
monthly
no, it's a
payment.
monthly
It's a
payment.
monthly payment.
Monthly, it's a
Is it
monthly statement, it's a monthly statement as long as it's here, just exactly. what it
And
is.
where can I see that in the budget?
It's under,
It's not in the budget.
It's not.
And the reason why it's not.
No, it is, it's under 940
Is
in
it-
the
is it
township
under
board.
940?
940 in the township board.
Township board, okay.
It's $720 per
But
month.
it doesn't actually say.
No, it just says
That's what I'm-
$720 per month cell
That's
tower
what I
payment.
meant by it's not.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't think you can legally do that.
But you'll see it in the vouchers every,
Yeah, the payment's in there.
Money's there. You can't hide the money.
Well, it should,
Legally, you can't put people's name in there.
yeah, that's the
So
interesting.
they have no cell tower on their property, we pay them $720 a month.
That's correct. I federal report on it.
They got a good deal.
They got a great deal.
Just a minute. Do anybody know, except for Steve, how we got it?
How we got the.
Yeah, because it was supposed to, Christmas had gone ahead and got,
They sued us all.
Yes.
yeah, but they also were gonna have the cell tower first.
That's correct.
And the township had,
Denied their permanent.
and put it here.
The
And so that-
township didn't, the federal court put it there.
Right, but that's why they're getting the money.
That's right.
It isn't because they're of anything they did, except they were promised to have the cell tower.
Sue the township and sue the.
Yeah.
The township board for
As long
denying the
as,
special use
that
permit.
tower is in effect, that's what we do.
Well,
Once the tower no longer becomes in effect, then you no longer have court order.
no. But the cell tower be taken down then,
Correct.
unless a new contract comes up.
New contract.
Yeah, well, the first one, contract was for 20 years, I believe.
No, it's longer than that. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
Well, how many years was it?
The amount,
It's perpetual.
it's my understanding that the amount doesn't change
As long as,
regardless
as long as,
of
as long
the
as,
payment to us.
as long as it doesn't, the payment to the plaintiffs doesn't change
Right,
for the term of what the court order was. However, the plaintiff payment has changed to the, township through the years. And there is one section of the payment in the contract where it changed, where they got an increase at one point in time. And that never got addressed until 2000. When I become the treasurer in 2000, I read the contract. And I went over this thing, because I've dealt with this thing 2 years from start to finish. And they were underpaid, and we had to go back and pay them what we owed them.
yeah.
And correct that. When that 1996, when the treasurer, I wasn't the treasurer in 96, obviously. In 96, I was a trustee of the board, 96 to 2000. 2000, I become the treasurer. I came in here and I read the paperwork, and we looked at it, and I identified the issue in the audit, that it was an issue where they were underpaid. We had to go back, we had to make up the payment what we owed them, because we were underpaying them for coal, and we dealt with co-locators. In the beginning, they were paid for co-locators. At one point in time, there was only one antenna on the tower, now there's multiple antennas on the tower. Today, you go out there and look at it, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of them out there. And you get paid for every pole communicator or co-locator that's on that tower. You get according to their contract, you get some $20 a month for a month for that. They only receive a certain amount of that after a certain time, and then they didn't receive any more, but they were left out of the game there for a little bit of money.
So we're paying about, I mean, this is about 17% of our cell tower income to whoever this property owners are.
I just wanted to point that
By
out.
by federal court order in
I made it all that.
they were, actually, there was another one of these deals where both parties were right, and there was nothing you could do, and it went to Judge Ensign and Kalamazoo. We all made a road trip down to Kalamazoo. We all met with the judge.
It's an interesting job.
And we went through the whole thing,
Yeah.
and this is what we went back in again, and we had a little court hearing, and we talked again, and we negotiated it out, and he says, this is okay, this is the way this is gonna work, and you're gonna pay these people this amount of money,
Yeah.
and you guys are gonna keep your cell towers in the township, and this is the end of this, get out of my courtroom, I don't wanna hear you again.
So,
That's judges.
Yeah, it's correct.
That's what happened, yeah.
Right, we did it everybody, so that's.
I was a mechanic then, a trustee on the board. I wore my polo shirt and my pair of blue pants, and he looked at me when I walked in the door, and he said, "I'm glad to see there's some normal people in government today." That's exactly what he said to me. He went through, I'll give the guy credit, he went through and he met each individual person
It's a good man.
at the board, at the level, who was there, whether it was the plaintiff, he introduced himself, he got to know him, he talked to him, I mean, it was a business deal, so it was. But that-
I thank you for the history, I do appreciate it. I have another question. For the 2021 amended budget, we had 15,000 for the Wisconsin Pavilion rents, which is substantially higher. And we just had a ton of rentals, or?
Yes, so 2020, obviously, the year of COVID, was, bad. But you'll notice that I had projected, I thought it would come back up to a rate that it had been previously. And obviously it has not, because it's only about, it's less than $2,000 for this. So,
I was looking at that. Okay.
yeah. I anticipated that after COVID, people would, weddings, graduations, whatever they couldn't do previously, that we would benefit from this. We just really have not.
Great.
I'm going to back up.
Mm-hmm.
For the sales tax for Michigan Constitution.
Yes.
It says there, for me, I wrote, this was my language, so jump in there. The state exceeds $1 million for 19, 20, and 21, meaning $1 million per year. The expected amount of the activity from December 31 to 21 shows only 355,000. 842. Why was there a difference? Is that the revenue sharing that?
You're looking at
Okay.
the activity.
It's only through September.
That activity is only through September.
It says at the top in the column 12/31, but that's not actually what it's through.
That was the question, but that's still
There's
a
still-
difference.
They're still paying us. They still owe us payments.
So we're thinking that their payments are going to be the 355,000.
No, that's what they've already paid us.
Okay. For 21.
They still owe us more.
So we have more coming.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
That's actually went up by $200 since this report was done.
Well, that's what that makes it really hard when you do a budget. You still have these
Yeah.
estimated pieces out there, even though we have no experience with estimating. That's always an issue for me. But,
You gotta remember on a lot of this tax stuff, and especially the state, the COVID thing really wreaked havoc on all this stuff.
Yes.
And it's changed some of these dollars and these figures. We've gotten better for this because in 2018, they came up with a new software program, which the superintendent and myself have, it's called Sigma. And they give you access to your direct accounts, and they said you can look it up on the Sigma, and you can see what the projected was versus what they paid, and everything along those lines. It doesn't necessarily say you're gonna get it, but you can look it up and you can forecast a little bit, which I will give the state credit for doing that, because that's pretty good.
well, it helps, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I hope it helps.
And here again, we don't wanna take up all the time here, but, you used to have, when you got your check in the mail, you got a voucher.
Yes.
And your voucher took and explained what everything was and why you got the amount of money and everything you had. Well, in the world of electronics today, electronic banking and everything you have, now you get an electronic transfer of your bank, you get a reference number. Unless you know how to convert that reference number into information, you can't do anything. And the only way you get that is through this program called Sigma, which we just recently gotten here back, like I say, it came out in 18, and we've been using it here for about a year. I guess we got it lined up for 19.
19.
But I mean, that's what you have to do nowadays, find out what where your money is coming to and where it's from. When they first started with the electronic payment thing, it was a challenge to figure that out. Even the accountants struggled.
Cool. I'm good. Okay.
How come you're not coming home?
20 to 5, you're supposed to be. Right, on page 2, for me. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
So under 63 civil infraction penalties, we're not budgeting anything for that?
No, it's, give me 1 second.
You said 663?
It's ordinance compliance tickets.
Oh, all right, thank you.
Yep.
Why doesn't it say ordinance compliance? It says civil infraction.
Because that's what, this is the language that comes in the chart of accounts. So a lot of times it's automatically populated by BSNA, if I'm right.
Exactly. Yeah, because
Those numbers.
civil infraction is something you write a ticket
What
for,
was the
not
number for
ordinance.
the ordinance?
You write a ticket for ordinance compliance. That is what that is for Marie.
141.
Civil infraction usually is a moving violation.
Well, it's also an ordinance
140.
violation.
Right here. It's right after the township word on page
So I would
7.
say ordinance.
I have some questions on page 1.
Okay.
Court fees, you are estimating that to go down dramatically from the 2021 budget. It looks like we're under the activity of the year, but it's still under where it was in 2020, 2019. What was the thought there?
So it's a reimbursement for prosecuting drunk driving and traffic violations. I like to estimate low. I like to be more conservative and not make the numbers appear higher than they might be. I
Okay.
mean, really, when it comes to revenues, I would rather be low than high.
But it looks like in the last 3 years, it's not ever going to have been that low, right?
No, but,
Okay.
so, yeah.
Ryan, if you don't mind me asking, because this is a workshop, so I guess we can communicate that. But if you was the treasurer at the library, if I'm not mistaken, before the library became an official library status they are right now, they didn't get penal fines and they didn't get some of the fees from the courts as well, whereas now the fees go directly to the library system, they don't come to us at the township, is that correct?
Yes.
I think that might be part of your answer to your question too, because they've become, the last year ago, whatever it was, they become a certified library, and that's probably not the correct terminology, forgive me for saying that, but I think that some of the penal fines and some of the court fees go directly to the library, they don't come to the township anymore.
I don't think that's what it is, Steve, because DeWitt was getting our penal fines before. So they still were being shipped somewhere, they just weren't to us.
They were getting yours though, because there wasn't a library here, but
Right.
now there's an official library here that's got a.
Tax rate, you know.
Before they come in, and they'd have to go out.
They're different.
Yeah,
Now
they went to
don't
DeWitt.
have- Now they just go right to you.
They go to
Mhm.
retirement, they go to libraries.
Yep.
We get a civil infraction or a misdemeanor ticket. Your fine includes the judge's retirement, and it includes your civil infraction, or your, if you want to put it that way, your fines.
Where before you were here, it was a township sanctioned library, it was funded by the general fund, and it's not that way anymore. It's funded by millage, and I believe they're eligible, and they have been ever since they had their millage, the .68 mils that they get. They get their share of the penal fines versus coming through the court system, coming to us, would be sent to them.
I
Go
think,
directly to the library.
Just like what.
But it's like $50,000, so I don't think it's represented here. It's a large amount.
Is it that much?
It is a large amount, yes. And it went down during COVID because people weren't getting tickets from driving, so.
so the second part of that strategy of mine, just to be on the conservative side, is 2020 was my first official budget as superintendent, and we know what happened in 2020.
Yeah,
So really, this is my second budget, and, huh?
What happened in 2020?
COVID.
Oh, that's what you
We
said.
couldn't do
Okay.
things we anticipated, we didn't get the revenue we anticipated. Everything was up and down and all over the place, so for me, it's better to err on the side of being conservative.
yeah, I would agree with that mantra. One last question on page 1 for me. The administration charges for water, it went up, we budgeted up in 2021, and we're bringing it back down in 2022.
Water, you said?
Yeah, 618.
It's about 2/3.
It's possible that I anticipated that it was based on a percentage, and I possibly just miscalculated that. And it's a
Okay.
set amount instead of a percentage amount.
Yeah.
So some of this has been a learning process with me understanding how some things happen with the treasurer and that we'd only get 6 from that, not a percentage.
There wasn't a strategy though why we went up to 10 is what I'm saying.
I probably thought we had more control over it than we do.
I think we have all the control over it, right? We do set that amount that we move from account to account.
That's correct.
Yeah. Thank you. That's it for me on page 1.
Well, you have anything on page 1?
No.
Back to the ordinance compliance.
Mhm.
So I see on page 7, there's expenditures for ordinance compliance, but I'm not seeing revenues for ordinance compliance. Is that,
That was a civil infraction.
okay, so, and going back to that original question, why are we budgeting 0 for civil infractions?
Because I can't estimate how many, I mean, Kevin's written, I think, 2 or 3 tickets this year.
Okay.
I don't know what,
So at least you have 3.
yeah, but I don't know if we're gonna write 3 next year.
So we're budgeting $1,000 for mowing enforcement under 149.59, but we're not anticipating billing for the mowing enforcement?
No, but if the revenue came in, we could amend the budget to recognize the revenue. I didn't wanna be in a situation where I come to you and ask for $1,000 to mow grass, when I could go out and mow the grass.
No, I understand that.
Okay.
The part of my interest in this is that there is some discussion about enforcement of sidewalk-related
Yes.
offenses. And so, that was my only,
Yeah. So the civil infraction process is Kevin would make contact, and it's whether it be a sidewalk or grass mowing or whatever job, whatever it is. And he has a conversation with, let's say, Jason Alberigi, and he says, Mr. Alberigi, your grass is high. Is there a reason you're not cutting it? And you say, oh, my lawnmower's broken. And he says, okay, I'm gonna give you 14 days from today, and you mow your grass, there's no ticket. So if he has to come back and your grass still isn't mowed, then you're likely gonna receive a ticket. So we can't control if there's a conversation, somebody might fix it.
No, and
So-
I'm assuming that do we hire a contractor to do the mowing and that's what's the cost?
Yes,
And so,
Yes.
wouldn't we pass those expenses on?
yes, we would, yes, we certainly would. But I just try not to anticipate issuing tickets. I don't want there to be like, well, she said I had to write $1,000 worth of tickets. I don't want that to be the perception of, that he's got some sort of quota, for lack of a better term. We will issue tickets if we need to, but I just don't want to count on the revenue unless we actually do issue a ticket and recollect those fees, so, okay.
Okay, anybody else? Anybody else? Okay.
I'm not that quiet, you know, if I'm not doing it.
Be quiet and will be.
Page 2?
We'll go to page 2.
I have a question on reimbursements, 676.
Okay.
We're again budgeting 0, but it looks like we've consistently brought in several $1,000s. I don't exactly know what that is, so.
676 is payments from, like liability insurance. So it could be if we get in an accident and they pay us to fix one of our vehicles.
Oh, I see.
Reimbursements, that's just one of the things that could come into that line item.
What's another besides insurance?
Other.
I know, what's
So we had an officer that we
Anything for
hired,
that?
and we bought a bulletproof vest for him. He transferred to another department and they reimbursed us for that cost.
So that's revenue.
It's all, anytime you see the set of zeros after a number, like the 10100,
That's what I
that's
thought.
revenue.
That's why when it was mentioned about the liability for the insurance, that's a deficit, that's
No, it's the, yeah, it's if they pay us for a claim or something.
Okay.
And so we're just estimating 0?
Well, I don't count on being in any accidents, so I don't count on.
If the fire truck
reimbursements
hits
for-
somebody or.
I mean, so far in 19 we did, in 20 we did, and in 21 we did. So I think it might be safe to count on that, unfortunately.
We had
No,
police
stop
cars
it.
hit each other.
I remember that,
Yeah,
yeah.
and that's why,
Year to date right now on that, for what it's worth, right now today is $8,846.
Yeah.
But like you said, there's a significant amount of money in there that comes from uncharacterized,
Yeah.
revenues that wouldn't be characterized in any other place. And the chart of accounts, they tell you they refer to them as other revenue.
So wouldn't you put that $8,000 in there?
It is, it's in there right now. It's not in there, it's not in the budget, but that's what you
You
did
have to
this year.
look at this, it was, when this was ran, it was 9/17. The date on the bottom of your report, or your budget is 9/17, and it's almost a month later. So we,
no updating has been done, even though this has been.
I told you guys that my initial was gonna stay initial until you guys had a look at it. There are other changes that will be made.
So before this budget's passed, you'll plug in those numbers so that we know.
After we have this meeting and our next meeting
in our next meeting,
I make other
our
corrections.
next meeting.
No, I understand that,
Yeah.
but I'm just asking when it's gonna change, because I don't wanna find it that night, and then I'm supposed to vote on it the next day.
No, it's not gonna happen like that.
That's,
But all of those numbers are past numbers anyway. We're not going to be voting on them.
well, you vote on the budget.
Right, but we're not voting on what's going to be changing.
No, but in order to vote on a budget, you need to know what your numbers are.
You're talking about
Sure.
what's happening in this.
I mean, the numbers are in here,
this
just
fiscal
look.
year, is what you're, that's,
Well, it's a living budget.
that's
Yeah.
the activity
Goes-
through the end of the year.
Yeah,
And,
because-
But that doesn't have anything to do
increases.
with the 2022 budget that you're gonna adopt.
So you're
It's
saying,
just
eight-
it's a marker for you to know where we're at this moment in time.
okay, I'm gonna put marker, okay? A marker in time, correct? Did I say that right?
And this was the marker at 9/17/2021.
No, I understood, because we had this budget, we're, what, a month later?
Yes.
Okay,
So beyond the 2021 activity, are there additional changes that are substantive?
Yes, we've received our health insurance rates, which only went up, I projected them to go up, I use a placeholder of 10%. They went up very heavily, 0.8%. So I'll be adjusting health insurance numbers based on the 0.8% increase instead of 10. So that'll change.
Jeez.
okay. No, that's the only thing I.
They at times have told us to expect double-digit increases, so I use a 10% every year. The former superintendent did the same, because you can never anticipate what, if it'll fall or it'll,
So that accounts for increases that take place in 2022. Does this account for the increases then?
yes,
For
in the
2022.
benefits lines, yes, it does. Because every employee was figured at a 10% increase,
Just overall?
benefits.
Okay. Yeah, that helped. Okay, any other questions on page 2? Jason, you have to hand it, okay. All right, so we'll go to page 3.
3 and 4 are just notes that refer back to the line items of the budget. So on page 5, Treasurer Wisswasser and I discussed this. I inputted the supplemental amount that it will require for police and fire to operate. I incurred that cost here, which makes it appear as a revenue. So this will be a correction that I will make.
That's the $954,722.
Yes.
Because actually, you've already collected that in 1.7 million property tax collection on the, you counted on the state revenue, the way this appears. What it needs to, when we correct it, we'll get to it in a minute. But you actually need a transfer out of general fund to the 111, 004, whatever this 103 fund.
Yep.
It'll be a transfer out number, it'll go to the public safety fund. Because what that number represents, that 954,722, I'll say the evil words that nobody wants to hear, that represents the amount of money that the general fund is contributing to the public safety fund, besides the police and fire village, to run the two departments.
Yeah.
And that's always a question I have.
That's about the most, the
How much
plain
did you say it
speaking
was?
way of being able to say
No,
that.
that's-
It's on that page,
954,
722.
Yep, that's,
On this page, it's not correct, because what it does is it double states the
Right.
direct.
that,
So this I will correct.
that's, okay.
Essentially, this page will go away from, because there will be nothing here for you to see.
Only because we're changing the terms to public safety.
No.
No?
No.
Because it's just double stated.
Okay. When I,
You would have made that, you had to make that transfer no matter what. But-
I thought it was made.
But you're double stating it, but putting it on everybody else, the way it is, because it's not, it's already there. It's part
so
of
what
the-
we're saying is, from the 3 mills, we get 954,000.
No,
I didn't think that.
that's the only thing that, you'll actually get more than that.
Okay.
The only thing, if you go back to page 1, we might as well do this right away.
Yep.
You back to page 1, you look at 403, 101,000,403. Well, and what you're gonna receive is for police and fire
Correct.
for the 2022, which is not in here.
Correct.
Because it no longer comes into the general fund, so you go to police and fire knowledge, the public safety fund knowledge, 205,
Okay.
and it'll tell you, help me out here, Karen, because the pages ain't in the right
20?
order.
Should be 20.
On page 5?
No,
Are we
It's
talking-
$1.3 million and some change.
Yeah.
Oh,
I can't lick my finger.
maybe I could buy it, but, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
20,
no,
no,
it's
25 or 27.
So if you had 1.3 million.
27.
27.
Safety.
1.427,
And that's the extra vote, bill, that's the voted bill.
yep.
It's
1.42,
1,427,447.
Yep.
That's what you collect in police and fire millage for 3 mills.
Right.
On top of that 3 mills,
That's what
going
it
back to
was.
doing it right, you're gonna also add 954,000,
Right.
yep, 722.
$722, from the general fund.
And that includes, what that is including, I'm interrupting, sorry.
There.
What's that including is when we do the amendment, so their budget for police and fire, 2 different things. When they run into an issue, they just have to say, I've got an issue with cars, so therefore
Yes.
I'm gonna get this, so there is no budget per se.
Yeah, there is.
No, there's a budget, it's on page 28 and 29.
So that that's 954,000.
It takes $2.38 million to operate the police department and the fire department, based on this 2022 projected budget.
Okay.
Do we have operating transfer numbers in for 2019 and 20 anywhere in this budget?
Not in that one.
No, because they were part of the general, they were part of the general
That
fund.
gets done at the end of the year.
But in
After the
19,
budget
they were
passes.
part of the general fund in those years.
Have to do that by law.
I know this.
So they got general fund money, but it didn't have to be transferred to them because they were already in the,
So I guess part of what I'm trying to understand is,
how much we supported them before.
yes, I mean, I can see in 2021, the amended budget is 779, and then going from that amounts to 954.
I would have to calculate that and bring that to you, to tell you how much it was over the millage amount. But that's easy to do.
But it's always been around this amount. It's not like there's been huge changes, right?
Yeah, it's,
It's
last
a
year was
significant amount.
$700 and some $1,000, but I would expect with both departments requesting 2 people, that the 200,000 or approximate 200,000 is on par with 2 additional full-time police officers and 2 full-time firefighters.
I have a question. Are you discussing the cost of additional 4 employees?
Well, I'm just saying, that's what accounts for that amount in this the 22 budget.
We can calculate the cost per employee, so if we were to have 4 employees, we can calculate that.
She did,
I
right?
think that's
It's
what
in the
I'm saying,
budget.
It's the $200,000 difference between this current year and 22 is people.
Okay. If you're getting 4 employees for $200,000,
It's probably a little bit different than that, but.
well, considering the fringe
Yeah.
benefits and other costs, yeah.
Sure, with your benefits, you're right. That's adding up. Okay, any other questions on page 2? Well, actually, we went from 2 to 5 because. Okay.
Keep in mind that each one of these funds and these departments, because you have different funds you're talking about, like you're talking about the public safety thing and the general fund, you have your fund balance in both, and what doesn't get used up every year gets rolled over into the next, gets rolled over and goes back into fund balance, in other words, to the general fund, and it happens the same way for the public safety fund. Since this is the second year of the public safety fund, it doesn't get used last year, you look back on the audit, you'll see how much money got rolled back into the public safety fund balance.
I think 21, I think this is the first year we did it.
Is it the first year? 20 and 21, so it'll be this year. This year, you'll have that this year. So to answer Jason's question, is that some of this money is being, if there was I heard somebody here, don't do the ways and listen in 2 different directions. But it was said that, do we have our budget isn't really, our budget, with the thing with this, they've already got money budgeted, and this in the public safety funds instance, they didn't use all their money last year.
So I can tell them what was,
And whatever's left over
Budgeted
there,
and what was left over.
when you make a budget amendment, will have to come from their public safety fund balance before it comes from the general fund balance. Just like in the general fund, whatever comes from maybe the general fund, funded activity will come from the general fund balance.
How does public safety have a fund balance?
Because it's a fund just like the general fund is, and then
Okay.
the money gets rolled over and stays
they're
right
not gonna use all their money.
So anytime they don't use it, it's rolled over and
Yep.
added to
there. Yep,
for the next year.
yep.
That we-
And all that really means is when you come back here at the board here in 6 months and they say, okay, we gotta do a budget amendment, because you brought that up, that's what got me
Yeah.
thinking about this. When they come back here and they say, we're gonna do a budget amendment, well, some of that money is gonna get a little more trickier this time, because some of that money's gonna come out of the first pile of money, and go to the amendment will come out of the public safety fund balance, money that they didn't use from the prior period.
But just to clarify what Marie just said, the money isn't rolled over into next year's budget. It's put in the fund balance.
That's correct.
It'll be the public
That's my
safety
point.
fund balance.
I think what Marie said was rolled over to the next year.
It is, literally, it is rolled over because it's there. If they have to use
It
it.
didn't go anywhere.
No,
It
it
doesn't go, if
If
they have to use it, then they use
they
it.
have to use it the next time,
No.
No.
before you add to it again, you're gonna use that up.
But they won't
Yes.
just, can I
Yes.
clarify, they won't just use it. They
It's
will
gotta
come
be-
and get a budget amendment,
It has to
just
be a
like
budget amendment,
any other budget
because you've
amendment.
got a
Because in the
document,
fund balance.
because you've got a
Right.
document.
So you will know where the money's coming from. It'll come from their
But
fund
from
balance.
that fund balance.
Yes.
It says, because
Yes.
that was dollars left over from the year before.
Yes.
Correct.
Got it.
So they don't
Okay.
just use it. So I just want to
And
make sure.
I may be shooting from the hip here, that may not be, maybe they're watching the video here, and they're gonna say, oh, everybody's for years. Because that could happen, but that's not the way that happens, because some people aren't really that, they're not that way, they're not sharp enough. That with their pencil to do that, they're sharp people, but they're not sharp enough with their pencil to do that. They do a good job.
Okay.
So speaking of fund balance, on Monday, I asked the treasurer's office for a copy of documentation related to our fund balance accounts. My understanding is that the budget does not include any fund balance information.
Actually, you didn't ask the treasurer's office for anything, you went up front and asked the secretary for it.
I asked Jennifer. my
She's the
understanding-
secretary up here in the front, and she happens to be the deputy treasurer. She's not in charge of the treasurer's office, nor would she have that numbers. I'm the treasurer. And if you want something like that, you need to give it to me in writing, so I know exactly what you want. She doesn't have access to that.
So, I'm wondering a couple things, and I'm sorry I didn't go to you directly with
That's
a
fine.
written request. I'm not sure how to even write such a request.
That's the
Let's
reason,
talk
that's
about
the
that.
reason why we'll request it in writing, because that way we're getting apples to apples. Otherwise, you're gonna end up getting, you're gonna ask for something that's not gonna be what you want, so your best thing to do is come in and sit down with me and ask me what you want, and I'll provide you with that information.
Without it being in writing.
Well, it would be better for it to be in writing, because I think it's more professional for it to be in writing, but it might be such a case as after I talk to you for a minute, I can say, well, what do you want? Then I can say, well, okay, maybe you should put in writing, this is what I want. I don't know any business you go to, or any government you go to about doing it that way, frankly. I just don't, I don't know where it would be done, but these people are probably don't have it, they don't deal with that stuff.
So the reason, I'll explain, why. We're doing a lot of thinking and discussion about how we spend our funds. And we've got some special initiatives that we're looking into. All of us have been doing a lot of work trying to make progress for our community. I remember Trustee Freeman was talking about investing in our fund balance back into our community. I wonder to what extent, I realize that the discussion about the budget is a somewhat separate conversation from how do we invest our fund balance, but I have a hard time pulling those two things apart when we talk about what do we want to accomplish next year. And so I know we have ARPA funds. I've not heard of any conversations about how we're going to invest those funds. I know we have a fund balance policy that dictates that we are required to spend down our fund balance if we exceed 50%.
Required to discuss it.
Is it required to discuss it?
Yeah, just to clarify.
So I personally, and I'm new to this process, it seems like it would be helpful to have as background understanding what of our fund balance is restricted, what's committed already, and then what's unrestricted or uncommitted.
This is why it would be convenient for you to come in and ask the question to me. If you go up to the front, you ask somebody what's restricted and what's committed and what the actual fund balance is, they're gonna look at you like you got two heads.
Well, and I approached the deputy treasurer on that, and she indicated that she was gonna talk to you. I'm not griping about not.
It's not going through a third party, it's gonna come to me, and if it's gonna be in writing, and it's an email, so that I can take and back it up, so that this thing gets questioned, and it goes as far as an audit situation or something like that, so I can say, this is what they requested, this is what we did.
Steve, isn't what he's requesting actually in the audit from last
It's
year?
actually in the audit.
Yeah.
If you look right
So you should have a copy of what you're
you can
asking
look
for.
right there and see what it is.
So
However,
that is 19.
However, when you spent money through the year here, which you have, and you made adjustments to your fund balance. through the
Yeah,
year,
good point, thank you.
Then it's gonna differ from that. And a lot of our investment funds are fund balance, we have fund balance that we have invested. Some of our investment funds this year have done pretty well, some of our invested funds haven't done much at all, by architect. But
Okay, and we have an audit for 20 years.
They're in my office.
Okay,
I can get them for you.
I don't know.
It's online and I have hard copies.
Oh, perfect.
But all this money is available, all this money, all this information is available. But you're required to come in, it's not as simple as, you're gonna go up here to the front counter.
That was quick.
Well, I guess I'm alone in wondering how we're gonna spend our available resources.
You don't have any available resources when you talk about the ARPA, the American Rescue Plan has been extended out to April 2022, before your funding's actually gonna come available. You're not entitled government, you're not an entitled government. Entitled government would be the county or the state. So you're at the mercy of the state of Michigan for your $1.38 million potentially that you could get. And if they decide that there's something happens to be a problem with the state and with the state budget, then that could reduce your take on what it is bet by how much it is.
But
Or,
that same argument can be made for the allocations that come in through other means. And so,
it's not, I guess the best thing to say is that it's not here yet, and I'm not counting chickens till they're hatched. I guess that's the best way to put it, I don't know.
well, and, I mean, at the same time, we're talking about the 2022 budget, right? It's not here yet, so, but it still makes sense to have a planner start the conversation.
That's correct.
So that's all I feel like my colleague.
It's pretty hard to make it. It's pretty hard to budget for that in this budget. It really is, in my opinion.
And how we do a budget.
Because you have to, by law, do a budget with the money you have and be responsible. You're not broke.
Well, of
You
course we're not
have
broke.
a lot
More
of money.
than what-
You have a lot of money, you have
Yes.
more money than what you really should have for fund balance.
I think I can help
And that's
there.
the way that is.
I think I can help. This is the program budget. This runs our program. This runs our senior center. This runs our public safety. This runs our office. You've
Yes.
crossed over now into the capital improvements part, which we haven't historically funded much of that, but that will be a separate conversation after we do the program budget and we work through this page by page several times. Then we'll talk about capital improvements and what we might spend some money on and fund those programs later.
And that'll show up in the 2022 budget?
Correct.
Yeah.
If you decide to, but if you decide to do it,
That's-
but this is the program budget. This runs our programs, okay? The capital improvements that you're talking about doing and spending, that would come in addition to this program budget. That's how
I know that. You're looking at me just to clarify. I know that. Jason's the one asking, but I think what he's looking for is it going to be part of this 2022 budget? That's why I asked that
Is the
question.
$1.38 million from the American Rescue Plan going to be part of this 22 budget? Is that the question I'm hearing?
No, I think he's just saying, when's the discussion? When are we gonna have the discussion about what our plans are?
Well, first you have to know how much you have there.
CIP. I mean, he's exactly right, when you get to the CIP with this thing, you're gonna do that, and I like to say, I ain't got much in the CIP. And I didn't write the budget. Karen writes the budget, that's her thing, but let me just say this, what Joe's saying is exactly right. After you get your operations all taken care of, your CIP, you go back and you look at that, you say, well, let's see, we got, you might ask the treasurer maybe to bring that number to you, I guess I could do that, or you can, whatever way you wanna do it, don't matter, we got a pretty good idea. You just say you got this much money to work with, what do you wanna do?
The issue I have with the CIP, sorry,
No, go ahead.
is that we have our non-discretionary items, which are all based on 2022 budget, right? And then we have two non-discretionary items that we historically have never done anything with. And so I'm not convinced that the capital improvement plan is going to be at all helpful while we discuss how we make investments in our community with the resources that we would like to spend down. And so I think we're going to have to spend some time thinking about creating a plan for those funds. And that plan should be informed by the comprehensive plan. It should be informed by the work that we've been doing. And so, again, they're not the same thing. Programming is not the same as capital improvement, but they do overlap significantly.
Well, there is, but first we have to do the day-to-day, okay? And then we can take a look and see what we might invest in later as part of the capital improvement program. And I'm glad that you launched into this, okay? Because after you get done doing this year, you're gonna have a whole year to continue to discuss this because you're gonna do it again next year. And you're gonna do it again the year after that. Because we're gonna have to invest in our community by dollar cost averaging some of this money over the next 36 months. So you're gonna have lots of time to discuss this. It'll probably be in discussion as long as we're a sitting board. Because we won't be done doing that this year. Sure, you can use that.
I'll clear something up with Jason said. He's right, he's on the right track here, but actually, they're not non-discretionary projects.
Don't fall off.
Are actually, a lot of them are assets, and we talked about this, and these are capital assets that's gonna be part of your, accounted for as a capital asset. A non-discretionary, project isn't necessarily a capital asset, but it will be at some point in time. But these are assets that's been identified by the respective departments that they need to be either replaced because of wear and tear or whatever.
And some of those are in.
And because of GASB and our reporting and how we have to report our accounting and our assets, we have to have them listed in a CIP, and we have to say, okay, because we have a schedule that we go by, and I believe our numbers, if I'm not mistaken, help me, Karen, but I think it's $20,000. Anything over $20,000 has to be a capital asset, which we have to refer to it as a non-discretionary project. But that's the difference between all that. So, but as far as, and I call it dreaming, all right? I don't like to get involved in who wants a police car, who wants this and who wants that. But I have to record this stuff and keep it in a way that it can be acceptable for our general accounting principles of accounting. And that's what I look for. So, you know, I don't care. I ain't gonna say I could care less, because I do. But I don't, I mean, I agree with you 100%. I think you ought to start planning how you want to spend your money. And the money you potentially could get, but keep in mind it's potential money. It's not for real.
It's not here yet?
I don't know how else to say it. You guys are smart enough people who understand what I'm saying.
No, it's not here.
It's like betting on an income tax refund. You know what I'm saying? Until you get done, you walk out of the tax office and the latest tax law or rule change, they're making a difference on how much money you're gonna bring home and what you're not gonna bring home. Same thing.
Once you get your taxes, you have a pretty good idea of what you're gonna get back. It's not gonna change. And so I think we can make a pretty good guess with 99.7% certainty that the money that has been promised to us or that we've applied for, and by all means, we should create a plan. And if that money doesn't come in, well, you know what, we'll change our plan.
The great
But we
thing,
still have a plan that we're operating on.
the great
And
thing
we're all in
about
alignment.
that is, which most townships don't have this luxury, but that $1.38 million, you actually have that in fund balance unless you're gonna get real crazy to me. And you, and you have that spent, so if you wanna go out on a limb, and you wanna say you wanna do that, you can do that, that's right.
Okay.
But you see, that's when you see, you're really not, you're no different the way the rest of us feel.
Well, I will be submitting written requests by email. And if you could at least reply,
You should sit down
got
like
it.
that and write down what you want, and maybe we can make the process simpler.
I'm a simple man. I don't have all the.
You're not gonna get it like McDonald's out here, direct to window, you gotta come back to the back.
All right, I'm gonna get back on track on page 5.
All right.
Just so I'm understanding.
Yes, ma'am.
What we're doing. If we have an amended budget that's $779,812, then we're going to a 22 amended budget, and this again is for public safety or police and fire. It's $9,554. You're talking $174,910 difference.
Yes.
Why?
People.
4 more people.
4 more people. So 4 more people.
Police have asked for 2 people.
Okay, so that's
And fire has asked for 2 people.
So that's $174 for 4 people, or 1,704,000.
I don't think you can do 4 people for
Well,
$200,000.
there's.
Oh, yeah, but one of them you've already got, that he's
He's retiring,
retiring.
so he'll be here for 5 months, but we would like to start in January training him, so that when.
One of the
our
policemen's
person
retiring.
retires-
So you only got 3 then, because he also has a wage.
It's
Now,
mixed among the other changes in the police and fire individual budgets. The net increase is 174,000, the most of which is 4 more people.
4 more full-time.
Sorry.
Correct?
We've been at this an hour and 20 minutes and we're on page 5. Just trying to speed us along.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I
mainly
thought
people.
probably that would be.
I haven't looked at it all,
It's-
Karen, but
they
is
requested.
the fire department full-time people?
Yes, they're looking at full-time people.
Oh, so our part-time are gonna become full-time.
Not necessarily.
Okay, so,
It may be two completely different people that come from the outside and are on
full-time.
full-time, and
I'm still gonna question the number.
that's fine.
Okay. It's gonna be pretty hard to do 4 full-time people with fringe benefits and so
The-
forth.
But there's other decreases in their
The
budget.
thing is that when we use a number, when we have a family plan of insurance, you account for the cost of the insurance, which fluctuates by age, and you account for the $6,000 that the township puts into an HRA. Some people never use a dime of their $6,000.
Correct.
And it's returned to the general fund. So in a sense, when it comes to insurance, you have to overestimate because you could be on the hook for the cost. But we have employees that don't use their insurance at all.
Do we reward them for that? Do they have an option here of putting that money into
No.
another investment?
No, because the township pays 100% of the cost of their health insurance here.
Not exactly true, you guys as a board voted here, several months ago to allow the deputy clerk to take and become the full-time clerk and put her money into an HR.
No, that wasn't it, that was vacation and sick time.
Well, he asked if they're allowed to use it and use the money for other things, so is that what you
Health,
asked?
no, I'm talking about health insurance. No, they're not allowed to use their health insurance money for anything else. Because we pay the full cost of health insurance.
Some organizations reward their people for not using their health insurance.
Well, if people opt out of our health insurance,
Yeah.
they receive a payment.
They receive.
But I'm talking about people that take family coverage
No.
and then don't use it.
I'm gonna restate the
Okay.
question. Okay, so, I'm an employee of that township, okay? And, my spouse is insured somewhere else, so I don't need the
They get an
insurance.
opt-out payment.
So I decided I'm not going to take the insurance from that township. Now, am I compensated in any way?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
There's an opt-out payment, a single rate, two employee plus rate, and a family rate.
So I can invest that money then, like in my 401 or my 403B or
Whatever you have.
whatever I want to put on what. So, okay,
I thought that's what he meant.
No, that's okay.
There are other, I know at MSU, I have the option of, it's called a consumer-driven health plan, where it's
Yes,
like a ridiculously high deductible.
That's what I was
But I don't pay nothing.
right.
But I get benefits in the form of HSA, so we just don't offer that, I'm assuming, or the
Yeah,
health.
so we, here at the township, pay 100% of the monthly cost, the premium cost, and we pay the out-of-pocket, whatever might be out-of-pocket. For a single person, it's $3,000. For a family or a employee plus one, it's $6,000.
okay. So what does a person get from us in lieu of health insurance?
There's a rate for, depending on if it were you and your spouse, you would get the employee plus one rate, and it's an average of what
You get the whole rate?
no, you get half the
Okay,
rate.
that makes sense. All right.
But what I can't, and that's what I was saying before, what I can't count on is if I have an employee that has surgery, I'm pointing at Ryan, he had surgery, they're probably gonna use all of their $6,000 that the township provides for them for out-of-pocket costs. If I just go get a wellness check and I'm a healthy individual, I may not use any of that money. So I can't predict, so I always plan for worst-case scenario when it comes to insurance.
Very generous policy.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
And I'm fine with it.
People are still gonna buy our cars.
So at the time it becomes, when we start seeing those increases year after year, there will be a time where I will come to the board and say it's time for the employees to start contributing for their health care, whatever rate that might be.
That's exactly the way this works.
Yep.
when does that come?
Well, last year, we got a 9% decrease in our rates. This year, we had a 0.8% increase in our rates. So
So you're breaking even, basically.
So right now is not the moment in time, because the previous boards have said that they're fine with this level of providing.
Maybe I can help you with that. Under normal times, you budget about a 10% increase automatically every year. When that's going on year after year after year, that starts to push that number. What Superintendent Hilbrand said, just in the last 2 years, we're just about even.
No, that's what I said.
So there's no push on that number right now.
Yeah.
There's no increase.
If they said next
No, I
year,
understand that. but
there is a 10% increase, we'd be having a different conversation.
All right, so you're looking at the percentages as to whether or not.
No, I'm just
you
saying,
contribute
like,
to-
when it becomes significant and the township can't continue underwriting that cost, and I don't think it's fiscally responsible anymore, I will come to you and say,
Oh, all right.
I'm concerned, and I think that we now need to have employees contribute to their healthcare. And we'll change,
Fiscal responsibility.
and we'll change the structure.
Right now, our costs are even, so they're not going up.
So that means it's okay.
Yeah,
No, I understand, just so I'm understanding where that's coming from.
that's why I said I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I'm not, but that's okay. That's, I come from a different background. I got a question on page 6. Are we done with 5?
Yes, it's thrown out.
You don't have to say that so enthusiastic. You move the table along here.
God, I can't.
All right. I'm trying to understand this, so help me out. Because this is new. Our activity for 2021,
Right.
which is 12/31, so it's the end of the year,
Uh-huh,
is $12,769.83 for salaries.
uh-huh.
Now, we budgeted for 2022, 20,000.
Okay, but you have 4 trustees that are coming out of this line that receive.
No, I understand that.
Yep. So,
So this is the increase that you're talking about? So from 12,000, we're gonna go to 20,000?
No, you're going from 19.
look at the activity.
Okay.
By the end of this year, we will spend $19,773.
All right, this is telling me through 12/31.
This is telling you that from at 9/17/2021, we had spent $12,769 in paying our board
So it's
trustees.
not through 12/31.
No, because 12/31 is 2 months in the future, 3 months in the
Exactly. Well, that's
future.
why I'm asking.
That's why she told you.
That's what I told you earlier.
The point,
What was-
I
I think what she's saying is relabel, retitle that column.
I
thank
can't.
you,
I
because,
can't, this is what
It's
BSNA gives
the
me.
permanent part of the budget.
so
It's,
this,
You just know that
But
from doing it.
Actually, only for September 7th.
I understand that, but it's saying 12/31, so.
Yeah, but you were
So
told that
that's
it's,
why, where you look at the
9.
date at the bottom of the,
I understand it's September.
I can't change it, it's a BSNA.
So this 12,000 is not for 12/31, it's for 9/31.
That is the amount of money that we.
9/17.
Through 9/17/2021.
the bottom corner of your page says that.
So in the next 3 months, October, November, December, we will spend the next 6,000, whatever the difference is between 12,000 and 19,000.
And that'll be true on every page.
Would it be more easy for people to understand this, or would it make it more confusing if we gave them a quarterly budget amendment report?
I think we all understand.
No, I don't think you should go.
No.
He's talking about the titling of the column.
It doesn't.
We all understand that it's through 9/17.
Because you guys have been here.
Yeah.
This is okay. I haven't been here.
I know, I just told you a couple minutes ago the same thing. That's the frustration.
I'll get there, I think.
It's, no, it's just, it's not a feature or a title that I can make changes to. It gives me the,
Because it didn't make any sense.
when I put the activity in, it has to be through the end of the calendar year.
Right.
So, I can't change it, but, and that's why I refer to the date, because that gives you that point in time when this was run. At the bottom.
Except that you do know at the end of the year what that's gonna be.
Yes.
And it's to the column to the left of that, and it's
So, that's the
19,707. Yes.
Yeah, okay. So it's not the activity of the budget, it's the mending of the budget that we're looking at.
But the activity helps you know if you're on track to either meet or exceed.
And in this particular line item, we'll know that it'll hit the exact amount because it's made up of 4 salaries that don't change throughout the year. And that's the
Correct.
only thing that's in there.
Correct. That's
But
the
every
same.
other line item, we may not be as close.
No, and that's why we watch it.
You're in the,
Especially
you're in the
tight.
fourth quarter of the 2021 budget right now, and you're at 72.92% of the budget for salaries for township work. So you should be at 75% work.
So we're just a smidge under, so.
No, that's, as long as I understand, no matter what it says when you printed it off, doesn't make any difference to me. What makes a difference is that you said it was through 12/31. If you can't change that, and we're looking at the amended budget as being the correct answer, not,
It may not be though. If we're trending over, there are some areas where we have trended
Sure.
over that line. And so
But-
we need to know that we need to make another amendment to our budget.
And lots of them that you're trending way under.
And lots of them I'm trending way under.
and
Correct.
that's what I need to
Yes.
understand with how that operates.
Yes.
You know, it's so that, you know, it's very clear.
Mhm.
That's why, because I'm looking at that number and I'm going, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
The comment is basically, or the column is basically year to date. That would be a better
Yes, it would be.
title for that column.
Anything would be better than what it is. It would be,
Can we talk about this page before we leave this page
oh,
again?
no, go ahead.
Karen, explain to the board what the difference is between the 152 for 541 and the 115 for 21, 22 for insurance. Our insurance is higher than 21, why is it?
So, you said one, what did you just say?
Insurance and bonds is
Insurance
higher.
and bonds.
Is higher for 21 than
Okay,
the rest
so
of the years.
a lot of bills that come in will come in for August of '21 through August of 2022. So I will actually do a calculation on the bottom of the bills, and I will allocate how much of it belongs in 2021 and how much of it belongs in 2022. And then our accountants will come in and do a journal entry, and they'll take the 2022 amount and they'll push it forward into 2022. So some of the bills that we've received to date, which including our liability insurance and our MTA dues, cost will be taken out of the 2021 spending and will be put forward into 2022.
And actually, that's, I want her to tell you that, so it's on, it's on. Actually, if you look in your audit, that's reflected in prior period of payments or prior period of adjustments in your work papers for your financial statements. So they prorate that back, and they actually, the accountant people, I call them auditors, they're all auditors to me, but they'll do the same thing to the audit me. So they take and they prorate that back for the appropriate amount for instance, for 21 or for 20 or for 22 or whatever year it is that you're looking at it. I just wanted you to explain that piece. But I know it jumps out at everybody every year looks at that and they jump right out at you because it's
Some of the
an adjustment.
contracts,
And it doesn't get adjusted, it gets adjusted, it looks bad here, but it actually gets adjusted in the financial statements, so that when you go to the audit, it actually balances out to what you budgeted for, and that's how that works.
and that's why I usually calculate it down to the day.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so staff salaries is 704.
Mhm.
Who does that cover?
It covers committee members, so planning commission, it's the per diem that each person serving receives for writing.
We pay that out in December, the first of December.
And that's another one of those
I'll take it all.
items in here.
I'll take it.
That's all committee money, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's for
Yeah.
committee.
That needs to go up.
Do you want to have that discussion?
Nope, well, not at this point.
Well, now is when you have to do it though.
Now is when you have the
It
discussion.
should be increased.
It's
Right.
20 and 25.
Yep.
It's
Should
20
be.
for a member of a committee, and that's 25 for the chair of the
Right.
committee, and if there's an acting secretary, other than staff.
Do we have a reference, I'm sorry, Jason, I mean, it's
I don't, I would have to- I would have to solicit.
Do we have a
I have to solicit that information.
it'd be interesting to know what other
Other
townships are
townships.
size and character.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't compare us to Holland or.
Bring that back.
Yeah.
See, to me, that doesn't make any difference what somebody else is doing, it's what Bath Township's doing. But that's neither here nor there.
I'll give them a
What
raise.
I
You wanna give them a raise, give them a raise.
They should. They don't, as far as I'm concerned, it should be, they deserve a raise more than, what, you got 3% in a year?
Yes.
Well,
That's
no, I
a-
think I deserve 3%.
Of course you would. So would I if I were. But that's not my money to do with what they're doing. But with our committee.
Nobody else is gonna say that for me, I'll say it myself.
So it would be 25 and 30, 30 and 35,
It should-
and
They should get a raise, just like, I'm afraid elections is the same kind of thing. To me,
Yes.
that's where
elections
money,
has been given a raise and all.
that's where money goes that needs to be done,
Yes.
more than it
It
does
does, Jason, it
for,
does.
it does. So, yes, I think they should be at least 25, 30.
So 25, 30.
So,
No, basically.
so I want to kind of pull out like the 30,000-foot perspective when it comes to the board budget. And there's a couple of things that I want to talk about. Karen and her staff have been being pestered by me about accomplishing projects that we don't anticipate. You know, this is committee work that is above and beyond our standing committees. And those committees require a buttload of work. And I've been both frustrated and working my tail off on trying to keep these committees the momentum moving forward. And I don't know where, and so it seems to me, and I don't know to what extent this is a COVID thing or if this is, you know, we're not used to doing this type of work, going after grants or involving community members in these types of things. And so I'm wondering, you know, how can we build our capacity to support this work? Now, I look at our community promotion budget. I know that's a newsletter.
No, it's like the Clinton County Economic Alliance.
Okay. So I wonder where we might have, and one of the things that we just have not been doing, and a lot of this is related to COVID, is that we've not been doing good community engagements, involving community members in open houses or conversations, meaningful conversations like charrettes related to our comprehensive plan. Now, I'm assuming that the planning department has some funds for doing that work, but I would like us to be more intentional about doing this type of work. If I just focus on, say, across the school, that money has just been sitting there for a long time, and it was kind of an accident that I came across it, and I looking at it and was like, wow, this is a good fit, we can do this. But there's all sorts of other opportunities. There's Consumers Energy Foundation funds that can also support road work. And so I plan on investigating that and bringing that to the board. And then, but there's even more opportunities out there. And so a lot of this work we can get grant funding for, but it takes work and it takes effort. And I'm frankly, to the point of being burned out, I carrying some of this, and I know our township does not have the capacity to support some of this work as much as it needs to be done. So I would like for us to think about how can we be more intentional about going after these opportunities. Does this mean that we hire contract labor? Does it mean that we hire another front office staff that can do this kind of support? So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Again, I don't know if this fits under township board budget or if this fits elsewhere within the budget.
I like your line of thinking. I think that there are people out there, and I have some colleagues that are grant writers. That's all they do is shop around and work with different, kind of like our public sector consultants, but they may be freelance by themselves or they may work with an organization. But I certainly think that there's room for that because the fire department tries, Parks and Rec has tried in the past. I know, like, when you talk about consumers and, safe routes to school, obviously we had to have some assistance, but there are opportunities like that we could be, I won't say chasing around, but we could be pursuing, if we had somebody that could dedicate the time to research and bringing it back to us and preparing an application.
Well, and I do think a lot of this, requires, and we have a lot of capacity in the township in terms of our citizenry. And the work there is simply logistics, scheduling meetings, where to house them, sending out reminders, and that takes a ton of work. And so, again, I want us to think about this and not sit in silence.
I, for one, support it because I think that we have taken on a lot of new, and I think we're making huge strides. And I would like to continue to be able to do more and better when the time is right for us to do that. Whenever this board has that conversation and decides that. And I think we do need some additional resources. That doesn't mean we've added quite a few additional staff members in the last couple of years. But it could be that it is freelance or a consultant or. So I definitely support the idea.
Good question. The dollar amount that's been figured out, and I somewhat agree with what Jason's saying. I think that's, as an elected official, that's what you can pay the big bucks for. But that's
4 cents an hour.
that's another thing. But with what's going on and the dollar amounts in the budget as a whole, and I like the page-by-page thing, but as long as that's been brought up, the dollar amount, could you tell me by any chance how much money is spent with 3% increase across the board for everybody?
No, I can't. I
Okay.
can bring that back to you.
Can you then explain, I know what, and I won't take this personal because this isn't personal. Do you do grants?
I have.
Okay. So,
I have.
okay, so what we have is we already have it. We don't need to expand government more to bring somebody in.
No, but
With our benefits and with the dollar and what Joe says, it's pretty tough to find somebody for a couple $100,000, to include, because between the two of you, and again, this is not a personal thing, I'm looking at dollars, you've got an enormous amount of money that's already being spent. Now, having said that, it looks like from our budget that there isn't any decreases, they're all increases. So it's growing and growing and growing. That's my take. Okay, that's my perspective. That's not necessarily everybody else's, that's just mine. So as I go through this piece by piece, that's what I'm seeing. So what you're
So
saying.
I stress test the system and it doesn't meet the need. That's what I'm saying. And so
It
if we're
depends
gonna
on the
continue
stress
doing
where
community
you
improvement
put it.
work above and beyond the maintenance of our existing structures
Right.
and
I
supports,
get that.
we need to make an investment. And whether that's drawn from a one-time pull from fund balance or we use ARPA funds for that investment, I don't know,
I'm just saying you don't need to keep government growing. You need to look at it to see what you've got and where you're at. And as for you being stressed out with it, I certainly agree with that. I think that's a big bite that's been taken off. It was a big bite to take off bath days. It's a big bite to take off real estate school. It is. Those are big bites. And they take a lot of energy.
I'm getting stressed out.
That's there. Whether it be, from everybody that's on the board or whether it's one individual, I don't
Maybe I should
know.
go to the car.
I'm just looking at this as an overall budget and seeing lots of increases and lots of areas where taxpayer money, I'm not sure is, and people often ask me if I'm really a Democrat. Tax and spend is not my thing. My thing is that you need to look at what you've got and where you're going with it and what resources you have.
right.
And if your resources are there to do it, you don't need to expand it and make
Yeah.
it
But you have
larger.
to decide. You have to decide if
You do have.
if my time is worth pursuing ARPA
Yes.
funds, $1.38 million of ARPA funding,
That's
or
exactly right.
do you want me to write a grant for, like we did the kitchen a few years ago, I won't quote, but like for $50,000. So I'm just saying, like, every day is a decision like that.
Oh, no question.
Every
No
time we
question.
receive a request from Jason, and not just Jason, any board member.
Any board member, I
I
get it.
have to make the decision,
Yes.
do I spend my time on this, or do I give it to somebody else?
But that's why you have a deputy for 63,500.
And she also has to
And
make
she has to
those
make those
decisions.
decisions.
She has to make, so do I do this, or do
So-
I update the
And
website?
that's
So
the
you,
question.
so-
Well, but that's the question
that
that has
is
to
always
be
a
asked.
question, yes.
And that for me, when I'm not seeing in the budget that there's any decreases, there are only increases with it, I get a little concerned.
Whose salary would you recommend we decrease?
I'm not saying the salary decrease, I'm saying salaries remain.
There's plenty of items in here that are decreased from, in single line items.
I'd like for you to point them out.
I'm not gonna take my time to do that, Marie. Just compare last year's budget with this year's budget, and there's gotta be 50 line items where it goes down.
The only one that I saw decrease was your assessment.
Well, there's a bunch of them, Marie, so I'd take a peek at it.
But
Have we seen our population increase in the same amount of
of
time?
course we have.
I'm talking to Karen.
Yes, we know.
So does that put a stress on your staff to get more stuff done, is there more stress here, more people visiting, more
Yeah,
parks and rec,
people
more
paying,
activity?
There's more people paying bills, there's more people.
Is that free?
Of course not. That's
So
not
my
the
point, is, excuse me, I'm not finished speaking.
You watch.
No, excuse me.
Just be careful.
I'm not gonna be careful. Excuse me, you are interrupting
I
me.
think this is time to close the meeting, come back again Monday.
Al, I would agree with that, we're on page 6.
Yes.
I really like you folks.
Well,
Well, we can do that, but if we come back, I'm not going to allow anyone to interrupt me while I'm speaking as well. You literally cut me off.
I don't disagree with you.
Thank you.
it does, it takes more. It takes more police, it takes more fire personnel, it takes more.
That's my point.
Everything. More printing, more everything.
I have a suggestion for a salary cut. I think it should come from 171,702.
Where are we at?
What page?
Page
8? Supervisory budget?
Yes.
Oh, God. Oh, please do, people. You guys, you spend a lot of time doing that. You spent the whole year doing that, so keep right on moving.
I mean,
Keep right on moving. That's okay.
Are we moving on or are we adjourned?
I think we gotta adjourn.
I would like to have,
Well,
I
there's
feel
still-
guilty for this, but I'd like a public comment.
Yeah, there's
session.
still-
That's fine. Let's try to get out of here by 6 o'clock.
Public comment, because obviously, we need to hear that.
All right, I kind of feel guilty for doing this.
Please,
but
I was gonna say, please go.
No guilt there.
The whole point behind this whole handout that I gave you, Jason, you weren't here, and Steve, you weren't here when I handed it out, but I intentionally did that tonight because I couldn't get an audience with the planning commission to kind of plan this to plan it, because they're doing some architectural things, and they asked that I put it off until their meeting after next, so this, I think, is very germane to the budget this year, the future, for the next generations. And Karen couldn't have said it better, and Ryan said it also, is that it's not free when people, when the population goes up and everything, and the population isn't gonna go down here in the township. We're growing like crazy, and we're gonna need parks and open space. And that was why, when I saw this, I thought it was a fantastic idea, and technically, it could be construed as a growing government, but I think it's very important because this commission, not a committee, it's a commission that I propose. They are compensated positions just as the Board of Trustees is, if created. But they are tasked also with making decisions on behalf of the trustees and bringing it to the trustees for getting rid of maybe some of those 53 parcels of land that the township owns. Their task is to go out and find out, do we really need that? Why shouldn't we sell that and have somebody build a house on it and put it on the tax rolls? That could bring in money potentially. and, pay their keep for this commission. And we have about a little more than 5 years to hopefully get a bona fide 100th memorial for the Bath bombing, which I think is the most important thing. And we can get Stabenow to help us out, hopefully. And then we have the Park Lake Trail that has been, getting over hurdles over the past 10 years. And I think that's pretty close to, being a go. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be, especially when we have literally hundreds of thousands of dollars of vacant land that could be put to good use for, saving the environment and green space and trails. And one thing I wanted to mention to you, Karen, is that at the end, at the extreme southern end of the proposed trail, there is actually a 2-track that goes all the way over to Chandler Crossing. It's owned presently by Hamish Sod Farms, but it's already there. So that's a possibility, and that was always in the Tri-County's non-motorized trail plan. I'm going to resurrect that because a lot of you probably haven't even seen it. It is. But anyway, so if you would please read this over and look at it. This, it's something to look at, and they do have their own budget. It's comprised of a minimum of 3 members, but I propose, this is all my doing here, the Bath Township Parks and Green Space suggestion. So I won't take up any more time. I know it's dinner time, all our stomachs are growling. Yes?
How do you know it's 54
54 what?
parcels?
53 is what I had heard. Many times I've heard 50-something, so
So is there a list out there?
that's what I'd like you to answer.
The assessor can generate a list
Beth,
of Bath Township owned parcels.
yeah, that's,
Miles is going to be talking to her about that.
the reason I ask,
It's not
I,
a priority right now, but some other things.
You could also look it up online.
This is-
Go to Clinton County GIS maps and you search
Yeah,
Bath
yeah.
Township.
Yeah.
It lists all 50-some properties.
That's, okay.
I can show you how to do that if you want.
Joe, you had a question?
The list was what I was looking for.
I'm just trying to wait my turn.
Me too.
There are 53 parcels in Bath Township that we own. That information is in an email to the planning commission, that's why you have it. Okay, and there is a map that also shows what properties we own.
Where is that map?
Yeah.
It was part of that email that the planning commission has.
Ah,
that
okay.
the former planner put together.
And I did talk with the former planner, I talked with Miles also, and he pleaded with me to put it off a little bit because he's like swamped, just getting started and everything. And there's never a good time for me to propose this, so I just figured, you guys doing the budget, take a look at it, this is some light reading, and it's part of the Michigan compiled laws, the initial act. And I just think, we could do it. We could have this, it would disseminate and it would delegate some of the responsibilities that Mr. Zeeb is going to be able to take over if we don't do anything. And he's already fully taxed, and you guys aren't doing too bad at being fully taxed either, so. Granted, it's technically an increase in government, but I think it's the right direction. We've recently kind of, nobody's really said it officially, but you've pretty much broken the legs of Parks and Rec Committee, and they haven't really, had an audience in the past 5 years. So something needs to be done in that respect, because that's a big part of any township. So anyway, thank you. I almost kept it under 3 minutes.
Judy Gardy. Jason, I think it's quite interesting what the conversation that you're encouraging that we have at this level. I think that as a community, given that we are growing, we need to, as a community, support community events that bring people together, that build community. I think that there's room in the budget, which goes beyond, in my opinion, community promotions, But I think that there's room in the budget to support community engagement in a larger way. We really need to get out and get to know each other and have events and opportunities that draw people together. I mean, my goodness, that might even be that we build a bandstand with electricity so we could have concerts, so we could, celebrate who we are. I also think it's very interesting that I looked at that audit. It says we have a $4.3 million fund balance. And if it's true that we'll get $1.3 million from the Rebuild America program, we have tremendous opportunity over and above what's in this budget here to really say who we are and what we're about and to grow in a positive way, which is, I think, things that we really have to consider. And I'm happy to sit at the table with you and to listen to you and to provide you with input and opportunities, and thank you for that.
Thank you, Judy. All right, need a vote for adjournment?
I move we adjourn.
So,
Have a second?
I seconded it.
Okay.
Claire first. Nice roll call.
Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Mr. Emeriti?
No.
Mr. Benzi?
No.
Mr. Wisswasser?
No.
We're joking, it's official, so that means we stay.
No, it ain't 4-3.
Three no's and four yeses.
Four, so-
Yeah, we adjourn.